3, 2, 1.
This is Remso Republic.
The clash of punk rock and politics.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the one, the only Remso Republic podcast. I'm your host, as always, Remso W. Martinez. Follow me on Twitter at Remso101. That's REMSO 101 on Twitter. And find me on Facebook at Remso W. Martinez. Tip of the hat to Player FM Auto Radio and Liberty.me Studio. And before I forget, the one and only awesome, truly amazing, never gonna forget them, Self-Defense Radio Network. Thank you for tuning in, coast to coast. I'm broadcasting you from the one and only Commonwealth of Virginia. Welcome back. For new listeners, great to have you here. If you are new, I've got some info for you. If you're a long-time listener, just hang on with me for another moment. I'm here on one thing. I want to try and make freedom fun again. That's right, everyone. We're trying to make freedom fun again, because if you're not having fun while promoting individual liberty every day, then you're doing something wrong. And this has been an amazing season so far. I love the fact that we're moving away from the current events. We're moving away from just the regular old politics, and we're just trying to have fun. Because if there's one thing I constantly get when I meet people at events, and for those of you that don't know, I went from being just the random libertarian at most rooms, now being the Republican in most rooms, but nothing inside really changed. So I'm still advocating for privatizing the roads and getting rid of minimum wage and all that jazz. So just to give you some context, I was at an event for the local Republican Party back in Lynchburg when I was still up there, and I was talking to somebody, and they noticed that I was one of the only people that wasn't constantly saying, okay, we need to go ahead and put some money down to build a wall. And they come up to me and they talk. They may have heard of me here and there. A couple of the people there have been on the show. So someone gestures to him, and he's like, that's Remso Martinez. He's that libertarian podcast guy. And he comes over to me. He's like, so I hear you're a libertarian. And you get one of two responses. Either people want to punch you or they want to go ahead and give you a high five. This guy didn't do either. He just stared at me. And I'm like, yes, I am. And he's like, so are you one of the crazy ones? And I said, no, I'm one of the fun ones. And he's like, I've never met a fun one. And I'm like, well, you've never met me. And I go on a rabbit hole thinking about that, because it's like, why don't we have a better stereotype? I know people are like, oh, don't believe stereotypes, but most stereotypes are always filled with half-truths. And whether it's the whole, Gary Johnson Aleppo thing or one thing or another, it does truly become really bad when you see a libertarian online, and most of the time they're being mean or they're being, they're overreacting to something. I mean, I think there's a stereotype that libertarians are boring, and I kind of want to talk about that because I think we're pretty fun. I think we're a pretty cool gang to be around. But I want to go ahead and bring in our guest tonight. He's the host of Electric Liberty Land over at the Lions of Liberty podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you love him if you heard him, and if you haven't heard him, what's wrong with you? Brian McWilliams. Brian, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Remso. Great to be here, man. Good to finally be on your show, and I'll definitely return the favor sometime soon, get you over at ELL so we can talk some current events and slander progressives.
Gracias, brother. Gracias. So I gotta ask, Brian, are libertarians boring? Because I think we're pretty fun to be around.
I agree. I would actually say, now I've got some deeper thoughts on this, but I would actually venture to say that libertarians are probably the least boring of any of the actual political parties that people have ever heard of. I mean, you look at libertarians, at least libertarians are coming from a different point of view most of the time than what's been ingrained into people's minds for so often. I mean, you've heard the same thing from the Republicans every time. Every Republican says the same thing for the most part. On the progressive side, they've had the same talking points for years. Meanwhile, libertarians roll with the punches, always have a different take on what can be solved via the free market, what drugs can make our lives more fun and more interesting. So, no, I think libertarians are not boring, and I think we should be the life of every party.
Besides, I mean, when you ask a libertarian their stance on something, if you're not a libertarian already, and you're asking them a question, usually you're going to be on edge because anything could pop up. I mean, we're like dogs. We come in different breeds. You've got your crazy leftist libertarians. You've got your pot and only pot libertarians. You've got your anarchists. You've got your minarchists. You've got your classical liberals. You've got your Goldwater guys. You've got your Rothbardians. You have the dudes that want to throw people out of helicopters.
Yeah, the Hoppins.
Yeah,
Hoppians.
I don't think those guys are very fun because they their solution to everything is throw people out of helicopters. But you get what I mean. I guess it's just that, I don't know. Do you think we spend too much time talking in theory? We spend too much time, stuck in the white paper world? I mean, when I see a lot of libertarians online, personally, I stay away from them. When I see a giant 600 comment feed on Facebook, or I basically stay away from Twitter now because it seems like my biggest critics are libertarians. But I think that they're just a little bit more versatile when it comes to your Republicans, because you've got your Trump guys that will scream about things, and you've got your Bernie guys who will scream about things. I mean, I think we just come off meaner sometimes.
Well, I think it's you touched on this. I think that it's the fact that people say, okay, libertarians are boring or find it's hard to discuss it with, have a good dialogue with, is because a lot of libertarians, I think, really go out of their way to become educated. Like, you kind of go down the rabbit hole with libertarianism, where you start, maybe you're just introduced to some general concept, maybe Ron Paul sucked you in, but then you find yourself going down, you're reading, you're going into Rothbard, you're going into Mises, you're going into all these other theorists and all these other economic, publications. And people, when you're just having a general discussion with them, especially in a forum like a Facebook or a Twitter, they will tune out very quickly once you start getting into actual economics and the theory and all this other stuff, where people go, it's beyond my level of conception. I'm not even going to bother to interact. I'm just going to write you off as either somebody who is obsessed with the minutia, so they don't want to get involved because they could harm their own ego. They don't want to have an actual debate, which is what happens a lot. Or they will see the other side of libertarians, where you get the branded as the crazies, which that's why I say, again, I can see why sometimes people could say they'd be boring for getting into an economics discussion. But then you look at the libertarian convention and you got people running around nude. I mean, Gary Johnson, who's a total goofball, was our presidential nominee. And the guy who I wanted to be our nominee is because facing, alleged murder charges in Argentina. So.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to this. It's gotten to the point where, at least for me, when people are, they're learning who I am, and they ask me, it's like, okay, is he a conservative, or is he a libertarian, or is he somewhere in the middle? It's gotten to the point where I say, I'm just me. I'm a little bit of there. I'm a little bit of there. I don't like the labels. I'm just me, and I want to have a good time, and I want to talk about freedom. And I just think that, and I feel like it's a cop-out sometimes, but if you remove the labels and you start to, just look at the person, I think that, that builds more of a connection with people, because I use social media as the biggest example, because I know a lot of you just, you encounter this too. You have that guy who's just, if he could change his name to libertarian, he would, because everything about him is libertarian. He still has his Let Gary Debate bumper on his profile pic. He has his Let's Choose Freedom wallpaper, and everything he does is a reposting from Reason, the Libertarian Republic, or something about pot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I know. It's well, what I think is that when you get down to it, a lot of people just, they see that libertarian, and like when I try to interact with people, I try to find, I was listening to this podcast, You Are Not So Smart, which I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but
I know that one. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a great one, especially as a libertarian, because when you talk about dialoguing with other people and trying not to become overbearing, like Johnny Libertarian on the Facebook profile, trying to find those commonalities. Is there was this whole podcast was talking about the theory of, or actually not theory, it's actually been studied, but the concept of, I think they call it backfire or something like that, where the harder you try to convince somebody and the harder you attack their point of view, the more they're going to resist it in every way, shape, or form. So instead of trying to just present one way of thinking and one, I am libertarian and everything that's not libertarian is wrong, trying to find a commonality or trying to find some places that you can overlap. And then maybe you can open them up and have a dialogue rather than just smacking them in the face over and over and having them go, this guy's a dick, or this guy's a know-it-all, which also I think more than anything, libertarians probably have a reputation as being know-it-alls.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the common answer you see when someone's rebutting a point is, well, you just have to read this book. I'm sorry. If I told someone to read Man, Economy, and State, and, being me, I'd find that as like an insult, because you're basically saying go, shove yourself off to a corner and read that like 12,000 page diatribe manifesto.
Right, exactly. And it also goes down to like, you should be able, one of the libertarian problems, so we saw this in the debates with Ron Paul, we saw it with Rand as well. The problem with libertarian points of view is that they are very hard to sum up to an audience in a simple fashion that doesn't, like, if the audience is completely ignorant to the basics of, like I said, economics, of the basics of foreign policy and blowback and the way that the world actually works, trying to sum that up simply and make it poignant or make it funny or make it just a quick thing people are going to get is almost impossible. And so to your point, telling somebody, oh, you should go check this book out, no one's ever going to do that. So, it's like we need to find, as libertarians, better ways to communicate. And we saw Gary Johnson failed miserably. Bill Weld, who I despised, actually did a better job in some ways of describing libertarian philosophy. But, it's like without having that just real quick elevator pitch on libertarianism, I think we're never going to crack through and people are going to continue to tune out.
Exactly. Brian, we're going to go ahead and kind of change topics a little bit, get another lane on the same issue. But first, folks, we're going to go ahead and hit our first commercial break. Hang on tight. You're listening to the Remso Republic. We'll be back in a moment.
Let's make freedom fun again.
Take the show on the go by subscribing to the Remso Republic on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, and YouTube. Don't be left out.
Hey everyone, the Johnny Rocket Launchpad is Liberty. Each week we strive to bring you the best guests in talk radio. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad delivers weekly interviews of noteworthy politicians, experts, and activists. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is bringing the party to the Libertarian Party and launching ideas in your direction. Check us out at JohnnyRocketLaunchpad.com, and you can hear me, Kurt Nelson, and the beautiful Heather Nixon talk about the ideas of liberty, rock and roll.
Make sure to visit libertarianwingmedia.com, where you can find articles written by libertarians all over the world on all of today's issues. Check out our podcast network with monthly and weekly podcasts. Check out our libertarian t-shirt store with t-shirts like Make Markets Free Again and Make Markets Not War. And you too can become an author at Libertarian Wing Media and write what you want when you want. Just email alexmerced@alexmerced.com. Thank you very much.
Folks, welcome back to the program. We've got Brian McWilliams from Electric Liberty Land on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Brian, we're going to go ahead and continue what we were talking about earlier, but I want to go ahead and just switch lanes a little bit. What I love about your show is that it reminds me of kind of like the same mission that I'm going on. I want to go ahead and talk about these fantastic ideas in a way which not only I think my listeners will connect with, but in a way that, I have fun doing with as well, because I don't want to go ahead and do a book review on economics in one lesson. I don't want to go ahead and talk about the NAP for the umpteenth million time. I want to go ahead and talk about the things that entertain me, the things that I think a lot of people want to talk about and have fun with in the same time. And your show does that. You're funny. You talk about things that a lot of people around my age understand. I mean, why do you think it's taken so long for libertarians to figure out? Okay, we've got to actually embrace the culture, because neither one of us are the forebears of this. I mean, I think it was actually Andrew Breitbart back in 2007 that said, politics is downstream of culture, and regardless of your opinions of Breitbart where they are now, because it's a little bit horrifying. I mean, They were really good at engaging the culture. They were the site that talked about the problems of government, but they also did a movie review and stuff like that. So why do you think it's taken libertarians so long to find that, hey, maybe we should talk to people like actual people?
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure why it's taken so long. I know that one of the reasons I wanted to do my show in the way I did and try to make it a little bit funnier and engaging is that, you look at the impact that shows like The Daily Show have and all these other Comedy Central shows that are kind of spinning off now. They're the same theme. And the left has really captured comedy, essentially. And comedy is how they both condemn and comment on what's going on in culture. And people just, they subscribe to that. The Daily Show was the most watched news program. There wasn't a comedy program. It was a news program. And
they
you go,
were
okay,
fake news before it was fake news.
They were totally, but that's where people went for their news. It's crazy. So you look at that and you go, well, libertarians need to be stepping up and doing something in that same vein. And Dave Smith, with Part of the Problem, of course, he's a stand-up comic, so his show is fairly entertaining. Your show is entertaining. And the more you can make it approachable to people and maybe give them if you can have a funny little quip that has a libertarian point of view to it, people are not only going to remember it, they're going to enjoy it, but that's something they also might repeat in a conversation. So you actually have half a shot of them helping out and talking to somebody else about it. And Joe Rogan's podcast, I think, is another great example. Not that he's fully libertarian, but he has a lot of points of view that overlap with ours. And you see how popular his show is. I mean, I think it might be the number one podcast or second podcast that's out there.
I think it's like him and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, like neck and neck. And Carolla's another example, actually. Same thing.
He's an explicit libertarian. That's the cool thing about him. But
and he's picked it up and rolled with it. So clearly there's an audience out there. So, I just think people that have some conservative bent to them, or like libertarians where, we walk both daywalkers, they're hungry for content, that's not just somebody telling them that they're assholes for not giving all their money to Planned Parenthood.
Exactly. And you brought up something which is key a moment ago. You brought up how the left has really kind of taken over the whole comedy bent on things, especially when it comes to connecting with young people, because it's really weird, because in a way I feel like it's kind of backfiring for them, because you've got like Samantha Bee and you've got the Trevor Noah and you've got a couple other guys, and they're just, it's gotten to the point where it's just really kind of watering down what made like Colbert. Yeah. And now Colbert sucks and Jon Stewart's gone, and I mean he was the guy that was setting the trend. But when you look at just liberal Hollywood as an example, I mean, folks, I know what you're thinking. Oh gosh, he's just gonna target Hollywood and talk about how crazy and evil those celebrities are. But I gotta give credit to a lot of the people. You've got Joss Whedon, flaming progressive. He did Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly, and he's done the Marvel films. Then you've got James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's another liberal. And you've got a whole bunch of other directors, and they're putting out movies. They're putting out TV shows and other things online where they're shows and films, but the story has to do with freedom. The story has to do with the ideas of liberty. And Firefly, I mean, Firefly basically wrote the story of high school for me, because it really showed why I never went on a date, because I was too busy watching Firefly. But Firefly was always about fighting an oppressive government. Mal and the team of the Firefly, they were freaking. I'm sorry, of Serenity. Oh, it tells you how long.
Serenity is the movie, yeah, right.
Yeah, Serenity is also the name of the ship. I need to remember that, folks. I need to go see Serenity again, so remember these things. Because
by the way, I was just thinking, I'm glad that they didn't bring Firefly back, so now you have a chance of getting laid and finding happiness.
Oh, exactly. My girlfriend should be happy. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, Firefly was an example of a show that talked about what happens when, goods don't cross borders. What happens when people can't own firearms? What happens when people can't even think freely?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's liberals that are ending up putting out some of the best liberty-minded content out there?
Well, I think that it is, as much as we like to hate on liberals, there are a lot of the basics. I mean, look, classical liberalism, is basically libertarianism in a lot of ways. So when you look at liberty and liberals, they should be fighting for freedom. They should be respecting these things. And I think if you asked 20 progressives on the street, if they support free, the free trade of ideas and products and personal freedom and liberty, they all would say yes. So in their minds, they don't understand that they can, while they're making a movie, which we go, oh, this is great. It's got tons of libertarian content. And also Rick and Morty, by the way, check that out.
Oh my gosh.
Dan Harmon, he's the biggest liberal hack when you listen to his points of view. But I swear to God, Rick and Morty is the most libertarian show I've ever watched.
Preach.
Oh, so good. But I mean, I think that they don't realize that they're putting out libertarian concepts. They're just viewing it as, well, this is what this progressives always believe. And they don't realize that all the social systems that they're putting into place and all the taxation systems and all the protections that they're putting into place actually hurt freedoms because they're ignorant to it. It's like they've got blinders on.
Exactly. Brian, we're going to go ahead and hit our final commercial break, but folks, hang on tight. We'll be back with a lot more after this. You're listening to the Remso Republic. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, it's Jen Gray with the Leading Liberty Podcast, and you're listening to Remso Republic.
Visit remsorepublic.com for all available content.
Hey guys, Tim Preuss here, and I wanted to take a minute and invite you to stop over to PreussPodcast.com and give our show a listen. We've got in-depth commentary on the issues that matter to you.
These hookers, fucking whores, are out there.
These hookers, man, I tell you.
Yeah, that's like the most contact I've had with the hooker.
Is them yelling at you.
Yelling at me on Twitter.
We break down the most pressing issues of our time.
This large lady with like tight clothing on. Not appropriately linked to tight clothing either.
And we get the most intelligent analysis from friends of ours like Jeffrey Tucker.
You pulled over engine trouble, and what happened? What happened? I don't know. Oh God!
Seriously though, we love putting on a show that both entertains and educates. We're growing, and we'd be thrilled if you joined us. Check out PreussPodcast.com for more. That's PREUSS podcast.com.
Make sure to subscribe to all the podcasts on the Libertarian Wing Media Podcast Network on Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher, such as the Alex Merced Cast, with interesting interviews with interesting people every week. Breaking Progressives, spending time every week breaking down left-wing narratives and showing what's real and what's fake. Economics Why Not, a weekly look at economics and applying economic principles to daily life. Better Today, a weekly podcast where we take a look on ways to improve your life and be better today. Libertarian Comments is a podcast where we play audio from the video archives of Alex Merced from his videos dating back to 2008. Liberty Public Access, a podcast where anyone can submit an episode. Submit your episodes to Alex Merced at alexmerced.com. Have you been wanting to start your own podcast? Then subscribe to Podcast and Blogging Tips and Tricks, a weekly podcast about how to host your podcast, how to produce your podcast, and how to market your podcast. We'll be adding some monthly podcasts to the lineup soon, including Make Markets Free Again, a monthly look at what's going on in markets and regulation all over the world, and the Free VST podcast, looking at free VST instruments for electronic music producers. Listen to these podcasts by going to libertarianwingmedia.com or subscribing on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. And if you enjoy the podcast, tell your friends and leave a positive review on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.
The New Patriot Manifesto is not just a rehashing of 20 million different books you've probably read before about why liberty matters. The New Patriot Manifesto is exactly the title. It's a new manifesto for the next generation of patriots. How should we look at cybersecurity, the surveillance state? Is the gig economy growing? What about self-defense, free speech, things that matter all the time, but they're aimed more towards the next generation of liberty leaders and people that want to take on the challenges of tomorrow. The New Patriot Manifesto comes out November 24th and is written by Eli Bowman. You can go ahead and find it on Facebook to get ready, and you can check out your own copy onto Amazon. That's the New Patriot Manifesto by Eli Bowman.
Folks, welcome back to our final segment. We've got a few extra minutes with Brian, so I kind of want to just, kind of let things go with the flow, wrap things up as we end the show. I don't know if you've seen the live show that we do, Brian, but I've got something in the background of the studio, and it's a plaque I found nailed to an electricity pole, which is probably not smart because it's a metal pole. When I got it, it was raining and storming. And the whole thing is made of metal. But anyway, it's a freaking plaque of Bernie Sanders, and it says, "Punk's not dead, it's just delusional." And I keep it with me, and it was at that point, it was like falling down. I was like, I'm going to be the only person in the world that appreciates it. So I took it, and I've kept it with me ever since. And now I've got Bernie plaque with me. But you know, I was listening to another show recently, and they had the conservative artist Sabo on, and I forgot what the specific topic is, but they were talking about art and entertainment in terms of political messaging. And the thing that Sabo brought up was, and the question that was asked to him was, do you wish that there are more conservative or libertarian artists and entertainers out there? And he was like, yeah, but no, because the moment that happens, then it becomes a novelty. The moment it becomes a novelty, it's going to get watered down. The moment it becomes not watered down, it's going to be a tool for ill-intentioned people to use. And besides, if we have a bunch of other conservative artists out there, then nothing makes me special. So
right.
Do you think in a way it might be a negative thing if we go like full on libtard and we end up going and doing the same thing that all these other like liberal comedians did? Because, you know, Amy Schumer, and I'm not gonna lie, her show Inside Amy Schumer, I like it. It's a funny show. But then she goes on and does her leather special on Netflix, and I'm basically blatantly telling people, don't watch that. If you like having brain cells, don't watch that.
Is it that bad? I've not gotten around to watching it. I don't know if I ever will, but just because I'm on the set where I can't stand her politics so much now. Her and I used to love Sarah Silverman too, and I can't take her anymore either. But it's
it's getting to the point where I just think that, you know, things can't be funny for the sake of being funny. I think I've seen this with other libertarians and conservatives. They try and do something and it's blatantly this or it's blatantly that. I mean, I forgot who said it. Can't frivolous things just be beautiful because they are?
I like that. Well, you know what? The one thing I was thinking about, and have you heard of this? But it's the Talesian Nexus, I think is what it's called. Okay, well, they have a Liberty Lab, and it's basically this. It's a group of filmmakers and TV producers. That's the guy from like The Blacklist and a bunch of other pretty prominent filmmakers, people in the entertainment industry. But they have this thing called the Talesian Nexus. And it's too bad it's gonna be too late for people to submit now, but they have ongoing kind of labs and stuff they do. And what they do is they actually had a recent thing where they said, okay, send us in a treatment if you're a writer or you have an idea for a libertarian short film. You know, so we want a theme of liberty in this film. But all I'm thinking is, to your point, if it's so on point, and that's my fear, is like, you know, when you get these things that are cringe inducing to the point where you're like, okay, I get it. It's libertarian. It's like watching a Christian film. You know, it's like that kind of like overbearing messaging where you go, this isn't entertaining anymore. Yeah. So you asked if, you know, is it going to be a good or bad thing if we start seeing a lot of people trying to make the content? I think yes. I think anytime you try to send a message, you're going to fail with it. It has to be something that comes out organically. And, you know, really, if you believe something, if it's part of who you are and what you believe in, it's in your bones. When you write, that comes out. Like I'm a funny guy. When I do writing, no matter, even if I'm writing a drama and I'm writing about somebody dying a tragic death, it's going to have some weird, funny stuff in there just because that's who I am. That's my personality. So if I'm writing something like I'm working on a film right now with a buddy and it's got a lot of libertarian stuff in there. Did I try to put it in there? No. But if you have that point of view, it's going to worm its way in. And that's the way it should be, because otherwise people are going to feel like they're being sold. And once you know you're being sold something, you automatically try to reject it like it's a bad organ.
Exactly. And, you know, just finding an example of like, liberty-oriented entertainment gone wrong. My least favorite film is based off probably my favorite book, and it's Atlas Shrugged. And I don't know if you ever thought about self-harming yourself, but if you ever do, put down the knife and just put in freaking Atlas Shrugged, because that film series, it's everything it shouldn't have been. And by that, I mean, it was just incredibly shitty.
Was this the one that came out? It was somewhat recently, right?
It was out between, I think it was 2011 and 2015, because
I remember.
I actually went to theaters, and I was in I was going to school in Alabama, and it was out, and I went on a weekend trip to Knoxville to stay with a friends. And while everyone went to go see like Ed Sheeran in concert, I went and got myself a ticket to go see a special showing of Atlas Shrugged Part 3, Who is John Galt? And I was one of only 5 people in the theater. And that entire film was just speech, speech, speech. And it's just so bad. And here's the thing. It didn't need to be bad. It didn't even need to be made a movie if they knew it was going to be bad. I watched the 1994 unreleased Fantastic Four film, but at least they liked it. This one was released and it was terrible. And the cast and the filmmakers, they defend it when it was out. And then a year later, they're like, yeah, we should have just sold it to Netflix.
Well, you know, that's a good point, though. It's like you shouldn't have, at some point, you just shouldn't have made it at all, because that's, I think, the biggest danger to having so many people get involved. If there are many people trying to put out content like in this form, you get people that are going to put out such awful crap that it's just going to become a laughingstock. And libertarianism already has an uphill climb for credibility, especially after the last political cycle. So, yeah, I think it's if you're going to do it right, you know?
Exactly. I'm already waiting for people to ask for more donations about that Gary Johnson documentary, the third-party candidate. I'm just like, no, have Martin Scorsese do the biography and then name it Aleppo, and then maybe they'll get nominated for an Oscar in the comedy section.
I will say, I will watch that.
I would totally watch that. Who do you think they'd cast as Gary Johnson?
I was trying to think who would be a good candidate for that. And off the top of my head, I was thinking like
Gary Busey,
a skinny Gary. I know. I want Gary Busey as Bill Weld. I was thinking if Emilio Estevez could thin down, maybe he could.
Emilio Estevez could, but you know, Bill Weld. I want someone kind of like the guy that played like Doctor Doom from the 2005 Fantastic Four, or
as Gary Johnson or as Bill Weld?
As Bill Weld.
He's too good looking to be Bill Weld. I mean, really, it's like, God, who would be a good Bill Weld?
I'm not ending the show until we figure this out. I'm sorry. I'm on a mission now.
Just incite feedback from the audience on your perfect Bill Weld, Gary Johnson on-screen pairing.
Totally. If you're part of the Remso Republic Nation, our private fan group, I'm going to go ahead and post a thread once this episode comes out. And whoever gets the best choice, I'll give you a shout out on the show. So that's the deal. Brian, if people want to tune into your program, check you out and everything you do, how can they do so?
Well, you can come visit us at lionsofliberty.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. So it's the Lions of Liberty podcast. Electric Liberty Land is every Wednesday. We have a 3 days a week show. And you can also tweet at us at Lions of Liberty, or just at me at Brian McWilliams.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And once I find out who the perfect Bill Weld actor would be, I'm going to go ahead and let you know ASAP.
Please do, and maybe I'll see if I can get our good friend Dan Smots, who helps us out. And actually, I'll give him a quick plug, because I'm going to ask him to make a picture with the perfect pairing for you. But Perfect. He just has a new podcast that launched called The System Is Down. So now he has to make a graphic for you.
Definitely. You know, I emailed Dan a couple months ago, and I was like, I need a theme song for the show. And then he sent me something back, and I feel terrible because I was looking through my my drafts, and I was like, wait a second. I clicked save draft instead of send. So, Dan, if you're listening to this, I promise I'm going to get back to you. I'm just really, really technologically illiterate.
Which is funny, because you're the youngest podcaster I think I know.
Stop giving me so much shit, man. I deal with a lot, okay? Okay, go away now. Anyway. Thanks, Brian. It's been a blast, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Okay, so folks, we're just this is meant to be one thing. Season 3 is all about pushing one thing, and we want to keep this going forever because it's such a timeless thing. But if we're gonna make freedom fun again, we've got to start having fun in our own lives, and that means if you're a great musician, go ahead and be that. If you're a great screenwriter, or even if you're just a carpenter, go ahead and live out those libertarian ideas, and people will see it. People will want to be part of it when they see you're succeeding. And if you want to see us succeed, well, one thing you could do is leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Go ahead and check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn. And as always, check out our awesome networks for some other great shows, Player FM and the Self-Defense Radio Network. As always, be good to your neighbor. Go treat yourself and tune in next week. I'm Remso W. Martinez. Good night, America.
Stay connected to Liberty's Rabble Rouser on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with the latest episodes, blogs, and other available content. What are you waiting for?